over the last decade, Sub-Saharan Africa is struggling when it comes to employment generation, and especially the number of young people who are struggling to get employment. Apart from that, you also have lack of decent employment in Sub-Saharan Africa. So we have a twin problem.
The first one is employment are in majority precarious. It's also called vulnerable employment in Africa. So most of the African people, African workers, they do precarious jobs. Precarious job means that the job which is either low-paid job without contract, or without any social protection like health insurance or retirement allowances. So in Africa, African workers, African people cannot afford to be unemployed. This is the reason the employment rate in Africa is very low.
High unemployment situation on the continent itself is a political economy issue. Growing inflation is equally another one.
Most developing countries are pursuing price stability agendas. That is to say, reduce inflation, or stabilize growth. But the moment you only focus on this, without taking into account the impact it's having on employment creation, then you're missing the whole point. Because the relevance of monetary policy is partly to allocate resources, including capital.
The South African economy has not yet dealt with what to do with this huge unskilled population, but also a growing young population whose education and training and whose economy, more importantly, simply hasn't been re-engineered, it hasn't been socially transformed away from the accumulation strategy of the 60s, 70s, 80s towards one that deals with the types of jobs, the types of the political economy of contemporary times.
We see that women have been relegated so much in the world of work. The work that women do basically is not recognized, and then the ones that are recognized, you see that women are at the bottom of the ladder.
If our women do not have good incomes, household incomes, then our continent is doomed. And so all must work towards ensuring that our women have a place in the process of creating decent jobs for our people and for our young people.
For employment creation in Africa, one is to move away from supply-driven training and rather move to demand-driven kind of training.
For businesses also, let them pay fair taxes. Let's see how we can plug tax leakages. When we do that, we are able to mobilize internal resources.
All the decent work challenges, the decent work deficit at both national, sectoral and sub-sectoral level, and try to see how those challenges could be translated into job creation opportunity via a just transition approach.
We need to look at how we are expanding. Even though we are talking about demographic dividend, which is very good, that is interesting, but we can only reap the dividend if we are able to produce or train those young people to have skill, young people to be able to think, to do things for themselves.
Africa is not moving forward because our women are left behind. And that is why we think we should bring our women to the forefront, and the employment situation in Africa will be solved.
Removing all kinds of barriers to foreign investments. And this removal of barriers to foreign investments, we are talking about tariffs, we are all kinds of tariffs. We are also talking about incentives for foreign direct investment, tax holidays and all that. But critical to it also is labor rights. What kinds of labor rights, how much rights labor should be offered?
our young people and our rapidly growing youth population. They could be our transformation platform. If we don't have the right leaderships, if we don't work together as a single continent, if we don't come together as private sector, civil society, research, people, government, we will not be able to make that change that we need.
The whole idea of the Economic Policy Competence Center is to generate discourse on the employment situation in Sub-Saharan Africa amongst key stakeholders. The FES-EPCC, through its work, has generated a publication in 6 African countries on the employment situation, and the idea is to learn from good practices that has created employment in these various countries. And we brought the stakeholders from these countries, that is the trade unions, the academia, the CSOs, and other key stakeholders to discuss insights from the research or the publication that came out, and also discuss way forward as in how best Sub-Saharan African governments can create employment. On the national level, we have created a platform for women who are mostly left out of the conversation on employment creation.
De leur faire prendre conscience des potentialités et de leur faire voir aussi que le développement auquel nous aspirons tous, cela passe par une vision. Et cette vision, c'est un projet de vie. Et ce projet de vie ne passe pas forcément par la facilité.
De la population au Bénin, qui est plus ou moins la même chose que les autres pays africains, la majorité des personnes qui sont affectées par l'employabilité, c'est un peu les jeunes. Donc ce que nous avons essayé de faire, c'est de commencer une discussion.
Crise pandémique, qu'on n'a pas pu. Mais quand même, c'est clair, la situation est extrêmement grave à Madagascar en matière d'emploi, justement pour montrer quels sont les secteurs qui sont importants et qui peuvent vraiment, qu'il faut soutenir pour créer plus d'emplois.
At FES Rwanda, we have been focusing on employment issues by bringing together different stakeholders. At the Rwanda office, we are mostly focusing on connecting employment questions to social protection as one of the core thematic areas